Different religions to me are beautiful. Everybody is wanting the same thing in life. They're all wanting inner peace and free from suffering. And it depends on the individual person which way they want to go, what helps them, what benefits them the most. So by people going to different religions and different spiritualities and different paths, then it's fantastic because they're all training the mind and having discipline, and not just wasting their life on meaningless activities and things. I've been religious for around 7 years now. I turned to religion because at the time I had a really stressful job. I worked in a nursery in a school setting, and they were closing it, so they were taking away everything that I'd worked so hard for the past 10 years. So my friend who worked in the nursery with me seen a class for meditation leaflet just hanging around somewhere in some local chip shop, I think. So we decided to try it out that night, and then after that we seen that it made a lot of sense what we heard at that general meditation class, so kind of that was the starting block. I don't think religion was there for me when no one else was, because I've always had a really good family support network, because when I became ill when they were closing the nursery, my family supported me 100%. But I think what I realised was that I needed to look inwards. It was a problem that was coming from inside, that external people couldn't, although they could physically help me with the support, I needed to work on why I was feeling like I was feeling, and that needed to be done from inside. Well, I don't really see Buddhism as a religion. I know it's classed as a religion, but every time that anyone asks me these kinds of questions about why are you Buddhist and everything, I say that really I just see it as a spiritual way of life. So it's a way of life that I choose to live, as opposed to the way that I used to live. So for me, Buddhism works, it's practical, it makes sense, it's a lot of common sense, it just highlights it in your mind, and makes sure that you think differently. Before I became a Buddhist, I did still think that happiness came from external sources. I still thought that I could find happiness, contentment and peace by making all my external conditions good. So better houses, better cars, better jobs, nice relationships, children that behave themselves. I even think that I believe there's a God at this moment in time. I believe that there's something that we're not seeing, that we're not getting now, that we're not understanding, but I don't think that that's a God. I think it's just that people need something or somebody or some to help them because they feel like they can't do it on their own, so they turn to external gods and things like that to help them achieve happiness. Well, the main Buddhist beliefs are in rebirth. So we believe that if we live this life differently, if we live a more virtuous, peaceful life, that in the future we'll be reborn as a human being, hopefully again, that can continue to train the mind. So, and if we didn't believe in rebirth, then we wouldn't necessarily work so hard to improve our mind in this life. And the other main Buddhist belief at the beginning of our practice is renunciation. So we want to be free from this suffering of this world. So first of all, you've got to realise that this world is suffering, the nature of this world suffering, and that the only way that you're going to be free from suffering is if you can control your mind. And then you live your life in a more virtuous way and plan to hopefully have a better rebirth. So my understanding of karma is a very basic understanding that what goes around comes around. So if you treat people in a better way, you'll be treated in a better way yourself. So, and if you do things that harm people or kill, then you're going to suffer in the future in a more drastic way. So for me, karma is the life force of Buddhism. Treat people as you wish to be treated yourself. Think of others before yourself. And hopefully then all these virtuous good seeds will be planted in your mental mind, in your mental continuum, and in the future when the conditions come together, they ripen, and that's what brings you happiness and joy. But it's the same the other way. If you plant in negative seeds, so if you're saying hurtful things to people, if you're being damaging for the environment and insects, animals, anything, and human beings, then the negative seeds will be planted in your mind, which we believe is here at the heart, at the centre of your chest. And eventually when the conditions come together, that's why we experience suffering in this world, because they ripen like the flowers. So karma, what goes around comes around. We forget what we need to do that on a daily basis. So by taking the vows, I've actually taken the 5 Buddhist precepts of the Pratimokshika vows, which is the highest vows you can take as a layperson. I'm a layperson because I'm not ordained with the shaved head and the robes. So these vows for me are reminders in my daily life not to kill, not to lie, not to take intoxicants. Another one is sexual misconduct. So although I'm a layperson, I can have sexual relationships, but I can't, because I've taken the vow of non-sexual sexual misconduct, I can't take a partner from someone else. The final one is stealing. So we won't steal, and having that vow of stealing is really important in this day and age. The vows enable us to be mindful of our life, to live in that mindful moment, and concentrate and develop good, solid moral discipline, so that we don't actually create any more negative karma for ourselves. So every day we take down our water offerings like this. We go right to the end. There's always 7 bowls, and 7 bowls represent the 7 precious things that at Tibet in the time of China, when the Buddhists had nothing, these were the most precious things to the Buddhists at that time. So we imagine that it's not water that we're offering to the Buddhas. We imagine that it's the 7 different substances. So the first substance is water for drinking, because obviously that was precious to the Tibetan people of the time, and they wanted to offer water for drinking to ensure that the Buddhist monks and nuns had enough water to drink. So it's water for drinking, water for bathing, flowers, incense, so that's the smell, light, scent, which is perfume, and food. Okay, so we would necessarily fill the bowls right to the very top so that they look abundant. And if you see, it's the 7 senses. So my understanding is by offering these substances, these precious substances that stimulate our 7 senses, the 7 senses are how we interact and how we view our world. So by giving away these precious things to the Buddhas or to the enlightened beings, encourages us to enhance them in our own mind and be careful about what we let into our senses, which then helps us control our mind. So everything represents something, but not necessarily what you see physically, which is what Buddhist life's all about. We believe that our life is a dream. So every day when we wake up in the morning, what we experience comes from our mind. It's a projection of our mind, like a soap opera, like a movie, and we try to train our mind so that we don't actually fully engage with it and know that it's coming from our mind, to lose our attachment to our worldly pleasures and concerns. For me personally, religion hasn't been an easy way out, because once you start to look deeply inside and you meditate and you take a lot of time out of the world, so you're kind of switching off and focusing your attention inwards, it's a scary place, because you start to see what's going on in your mind. You start to see all these thoughts and feelings, jealousy, negativity, paranoia, stress, anxiety. Once you start looking at your mind and watching your mind, you become a lot more aware of what's going on in there, and you just see it for what it is, that it is chaos. It's crazy, and it causes a lot of pain and suffering.